Pokemon Go recently added Barbaracle to the game. If you don't know what Barbaracle is, its pre-evolution is like this little rock thing with two hands sticking out of it with like faces on the hands. And then the evolution itself, Barbaracle here, is it's got 5 hands. It's a walk-in thing with 5 hands. Its head is also a hand. That's the 5th hand. So yeah, it's kind of a terrifying Pokemon, kind of goofy looking. So in this video, I'm going to be looking at Barbaracle in the context of PvP, how good it is in the meta, if you should build it or not. And right now, I think my current impression is that it's pretty good in the Great League, and it might be pretty great in the Retro Cup. When it comes to the Ultra League, also probably not all that great in the Ultra League. At any rate, let's get into it. Here we have Barbaracle on Game Press. I was not lying about the 5 hands. You can see all 5 hands here, and the face, that's also a hand. Yeah, it is a water rock type Pokemon, so it does have a doubled up weakness to grass type attacks. So a lot of grass type Pokemon can just straight fast move farm it down, which is pretty bad news for Barbaracle there, but you know, the Mud Boys, they've been dealing with that for generations, and it really hasn't hurt them too much. But unlike the Mud Boys, Barbaracle also has other weaknesses. It has weaknesses to ground type attacks, electric type attacks, and fighting type attacks. So definitely not great for Barbaracle, and I feel like this poor defensive typing is something that will hold it back overall from the general Great League meta. When it comes to its stat line, it's got relatively high attack, but it does have decent defense and very okay HP. So overall, it's not like a tanky Pokemon, but it's not really fragile either. And then when it comes to the moveset department, we have Mud Slap, Water Gun, and Fury Cutter for the fast moves. Mud Slap isn't too bad, but because Barbaracle is a water rock type Pokemon, it's not a ground type Pokemon, you know, a heavy fast move damaging attack really isn't all that great then. So like a Mud Slap on a Claydol, for example, a ground type Pokemon, that's pretty impressive. But on a rock water Pokemon, it's not that great. Sort of like how Charm doesn't work out too well on non-fairy type Pokemon. When it comes to Water Gun isn't exactly a terrible attack either. We do see that it gets some good use on, you know, Rainy Cast form. Blastoise gets some use out of it. A Lantern can also use it to good effect as well. But I'm pretty sure all these Pokemon, if they could get like a slightly better fast move, they would much rather use that than Water Gun in most situations. And yeah, Barbaracle there, it's got Fury Cutter. Fury Cutter's got high energy gains, and that's basically what Barbaracle's going to want to go with. Much like how Lantern can turn to the Spark side of the Force, yeah, Barbaracle's going to probably want to go for the Fury Cutter more often than not. Then when it comes to the charge moves, we got Cross Chop, Stone Edge, Grass Knot, and Skull Bash. Once again, Skull Bash doesn't really work too well on Pokemon that aren't notably bulky, so like Lapras is pretty much the only like common Skull Bash user. We also see Skull Bash from Snorlax time to time, but Barbaracle is definitely not the kind of Pokemon that's going to want to be using this attack. Grass Knot is nice for coverage against opposing water type Pokemon, but if it's not a water ground type Pokemon, more often than not, Stone Edge is going to work out just as well. For example, in the Azumarill matchup, you have basically the same odds. If you have Grass Knot or Stone Edge, you basically just have to, you know, avoid the Hydro Pump and then land the Stone Edges, and then you beat Azumarill basically as well as you would if you would have landed a Grass Knot. So I don't really see a whole lot of utility for Grass Knot, aside from maybe surprising Mud Boys. So then that just leaves us with Stone Edge and Cross Chop. Stone Edge obviously is going to be the big attack for Barbaracle here. It's a big rock type nuke attack. Barbaracle is a rock type Pokemon, so it makes it even more powerful. And then Cross Chop here is a nice bait move. And to make Cross Chop even better in this context, it does have good coverage with the rock type attack, so fighting plus rock has neutral coverage against most types of Pokemon, so Barbaracle is definitely enjoying that. For example, if you were to be stuck against a steel type Pokemon like Bastiodon or Galar Stunfisk, you do have the potential to overcome them just straight Cross Chop. So Barbaracle definitely enjoying having the Cross Chop there. So overall, I'd say Barbaracle is a very decent Pokemon. It's got, you know, a decent typing, decent stat line, a very okay move pool, but I don't think it's a really like a great Pokemon for the general Great League. And I think a good parallel to make for Barbaracle would be to compare it to the Whiscash. Both Barbaracle and Whiscash are the type of Pokemon that can overcome flying type Pokemon. Whiscash is doing it with Blizzard, Barbaracle is doing it with Stone Edge. Both of these Pokemon aren't like tanky enough to just go straight Stone Edge or go straight Blizzard against most flying type Pokemon, so they do have to work in a bait-in from time to time. That does effectively no damage to the flyers if you don't land the bait. So Cross Chop, pretty weak hit. Mud Bomb against the Flyers, a pretty weak hit. Both of them are relying on their bigger, higher energy cost charge move to overcome those matchups. The big difference between Barbaracle and Whiscash, though, is that Barbaracle is basically always trying to land the Stone Edge, where Whiscash only really needs that Blizzard as a contingency move. If it's not trying to land the Blizzard against a Flyer or a Grass-type Pokemon, it's just going straight Mud Bomb all the time, because Mud Bomb is just a spammy attack, same type attack bonus on it. Whiscash just loves throwing those Mud Bombs. But when it comes to Barbaracle here, even though it has 5 hands, the Cross Chop really isn't doing that much damage against most neutral opponents. So, you know, I think that's the big difference, and probably one of the bigger deciding factors that really kicks Barbaracle out of the meta. So even though it does have some interesting spice to it, it's got some interesting tech that can let it overcome various meta threats, I think when it comes to the general Open Great League, Barbaracle will probably always be relegated as a spicy pick, like an interesting option to throw your opponent off that your opponent might not be expecting. They might not be too familiar with Barbaracle's matchups. But it won't be a general meta like, yeah, for sure power up Barbaracle type Pokemon. One thing I do find interesting with Barbaracle, though, is in the context of the Retro Cup meta. If you're not familiar, the Retro Cup is coming to Go Battle League on May 10th, and it is the Open Great League, except the Fairies, the Steel types, and the Dark type Pokemon are going to be excluded. The ban list of those types of Pokemon. And that list includes Azumarill, which is pretty threatening to this guy, and to flying type Pokemon. And of course, you know, Galar Stunfisk, Melmetal, Bastiodon, Pokemon that heavily threaten flying type Pokemon. So how are we going to respond to these flying type Pokemon taking over the meta? Well, of course, we still have our ice type Pokemon. And when it comes to the ice type Pokemon, not only are they boosted by the fact that the flyers are getting boosted because the steel types and the fairy types are gone, but they're also getting boosted because the steel types are gone. You bring in your Frostlass, there's no chance of like a Bastiodon just showing up and wrecking your life because steel type Pokemon are banned. So when you think about it in the sense that both flying type Pokemon and ice type Pokemon are going to be really good in this particular meta, I feel like Barbaracle stands out in a really, really big way because nothing really counters both of those types of Pokemon as reliably as Barbaracle does. If you need further proof here, we do have PV Poke, and we got Barbaracle here in the 1 shield versus the general Great League meta in the 2 shield. So the opponents here are at a shield advantage, Barbaracle is at a shield disadvantage, and you can see that we're getting big wins against Talonflame, Alola Marowak, Lapras, and Dugong. So Alola Marowak, Lapras, and Dugong obviously are going to have some pretty big presence in the Retro Cup. Talonflame is a Pokemon that, you know, is a little scrutinized. I've been getting tons of wins with Talonflame in the Open Great League meta, so I love it. Some people think it's just kind of like a noob Pokemon that's just getting a little bit of flair because it's the new thing. But I think Talonflame's pretty good overall, and we're probably going to see a lot of this in the Retro Cup meta as well. But yeah, just having such a domineering matchup against these 4 Pokemon, though, when you're at the shield disadvantage there, I think that definitely speaks for Barbaracle's prowess in the future Retro Cup meta. And then when it comes to, you know, more threatening Ice-type Pokemon, mostly Frostlass. I think Frostlass is like the only other big name Ice-type here. You know, Frostlass, we do have play into Frostlass in even shield situations, or if we have a shield advantage. So yeah, Frostlass is not going to enjoy fighting this thing. Most flyers aren't going to have a great time against Barbaracle either. And then you just straight up dominate Dugong and Lapras, which are 2 of the bigger Ice-type Pokemon, and like Alola Marowak and Talonflame. So I feel like Retro Cup, if you got your sights set on that, you may want to look into building a Barbaracle specifically for that meta. Quick thing I'd like to add on Barbaracle's IVs as well is under most situations, I'm finding that the rank 1, like maximum bulk Barbaracle, is basically the way to go. There are effectively no meaningful matchups that are affected by a Fury Cutter breakpoint, like they just straight up don't have a Fury Cutter breakpoint. So going for a higher attack stat generally doesn't seem to be a play at all. However, in the context of Mew, you may want to think about having a slightly higher attack stat Barbaracle there. So like you can control your IVs to some extent by catching more Pokemon, but Mew is kind of stuck with what it has, and Mew is overall just a generally really good Pokemon. And its attack stat can range from like the 120s to like 121. It can go slightly higher than this if the person that got their Mew is truly unfortunate. But I think 121 is a pretty good attack stat to shoot for. So if you do get a Barbaracle, you're looking at your Barbaracle candidates. They all have very okay-ish IVs. I'd say maybe think about one that goes a little bit above 121 for the attack stat, because with that kind of IV spread, then you could potentially overcome Mew by overcoming it in a CMP tie. In a straight matchup, Mew should be beating you, but it also depends on the Mew's moveset, so it's not, it's just like a little bit of extra thing there. If you got like 5 different Barbaracles you're looking at powering up for the Retro Cup, and none of them are exactly fantastic, then maybe give a little bit more love to the one with the slightly higher attack stat. Of course, to like an upper limit of like 121.1 on the attack stat. So just a little bit of extra something for you there. And if you are curious about Barbaracle in the Ultra League or the Premier Cup Ultra League, it is a Pokemon that caps kind of near 2,500 without the XL candy, so you can also XL it. I don't think it's really good there. And I'm not going to take you through like a bunch of individual simulations to show you why it's not good or how it could possibly be good. I'm just going to straight up tell you that it's not that great. I think a big thing that plays against Barbaracle, like 2 factors that play against Barbaracle, is A, there's a lot more like fighting type Pokemon in the Ultra League, and a lot more Pokemon in general that can threaten Barbaracle really well in the Ultra League. 2, I guess, related to that, 1B, that was 1A, this is 1B. 1B is there's a lot less like targets for Barbaracle to prey upon with its rock type attacks. There aren't as many flying type Pokemon that aren't like overly aggressive for Barbaracle, like Dragonite's really aggressive on Barbaracle. Barbaracle does not want to fight Dragonite. So that should tell you basically everything you should know about this thing. And then 2 or 3, however you want to look at it, it's just that like a lot of the cheeky KOs that Barbaracle can get in the Great League, it just misses out on in the Ultra League, because the attack stat and the defense stat, those things keep trading off, but the HP stat just keeps getting bigger. So while Barbaracle could possibly like 1-1 Umbreon in the Great League because of Cross Chop just getting that KO in, when it comes to the Ultra League, it's missing out on that KO. Same kind of situation goes down for the Galar Stunfisk. You were just getting that cheeky KO against it in the Great League. That cheeky KO, that out, it doesn't exist in the Ultra League. So yeah, just not good. Like, it's not, I guess, terrible. You could use it. People probably will. It's not great. So those are my thoughts on Barbaracle here. Overall, in the Open Great League, I think it's a good Pokemon, but I think it will never really escape being just a spice Pokemon. When it comes to the context of the Retro Cup, however, the cup where flying and ice type Pokemon look like they're going to be extremely good, I feel like Barbaracle is going to be a lot better there, and it could be worthwhile to build a Barbaracle specifically for the Retro Cup. And then finally, when it comes to the Ultra League and the Ultra Premier, I don't think it's really good there. At any rate, that's all I gotta say on the guy. If you got any questions on the content, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. If you enjoyed this content and you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description.